This is bad as the Vancouver Canucks get shocking updates on two key players that are out of the lineup with an injury, with young stars stepping up in their absence. There's a lot of implications going into the remainder of this season as the Canucks try to fight to make the wild card spot. We have a lot to break down in this episode, so we're just going to hop straight into that today. And listen, we know that both Petey and Hoglander are both out with an injury, and Rick Tocchet did say they win home today, they'll be evaluated when we get back, so they won't be with us for the rest of the trip. Now, with this trip, there is 4 games left on the schedule during this road trip. The next game versus the New York Islanders after we've seen the Canucks come in clutch and win the game last night. So the biggest thing with the Canucks is missing key players from this roster when they're in do or die games to make the postseason. I mean, looking at the roster itself, the Vancouver Canucks are without multiple players. We know Chytil is out with concussion protocols. We know Hoglander and Petey are both out. Noah Juulsen did have surgery and is sat for the rest of the season. Lankinen is currently sick. Mancini is only there due to a scratch. But the Canucks have been hit with the injury bug all season long. I mean, it seems like as soon as Demko came back, we've seen Petey and both Hoglander go down with an injury. We've seen multiple players throughout the season. Even JT Miller took time off when the Canucks did have him. Quinn Hughes was out for an extended period of time. Brock Boeser, Demko, the names on this list. The Canucks cannot get lucky when it comes to the health issues. And I know, listen, Petey has been a bit of a disappointment for parts of the season, but he has really came back and turned things around over his last stretch of 8 to 10 games. We see him having 45 points in 64 games. We would like the numbers to be up to a point per game, but losing Pettersson out of this lineup is going to be a major blow. And listen, we've seen guys step up in Boeser last night, playing the number 1 center position. Teddy Blueger moved up. We've seen Amon moved up, and Ratu make his lineup not debut, but you know what I mean, with this Canucks team. And looking at Pettersson and Hoglander, the second part of the top line, 2 out of 3 out of the Canucks top line over the last 10 game stretch are out. Hoglander is having a bounce back as well. We've seen him have points in almost 5 straight games. We've seen him get a lot of chemistry with Elias Pettersson and Brock Boeser. Getting Brock Boeser back to the point of looking like a first-line center, having 2 of these guys out for an extended period of time, like Rick Tocchet said, at least the next 4 games on this road trip, they're going to go on a bit of a run where they do play teams like the New York Islanders tomorrow night. I believe it's the Columbus Blue Jackets. They end the trip with the Winnipeg Jets. Some of these games are easy to win, but the Winnipeg Jets is going to be another tough game, even though they smoked them last time they played. So these games are must win when it comes to the Canucks. And looking at the lineup, yes, it doesn't look great. We've seen it work last night, but this Canucks team is going to have to find some lucky dust to get back into a full playoff push. I mean, Boeser, Teddy Blueger, Amon, and Ratu down the middle. Jonathan Lekkeriamki, who we will touch on shortly, was the hero last night in overtime. But this is a Canucks team that is determined to make the playoffs, make the push, and make it to the postseason. We've seen Quinn Hughes last night say they're putting their foot to the pedal and looking to make a push. They're not going to give up. They're not going to roll over dead. They want to make a postseason. And listen, like I said, having these key players out in Hoglander and Petey, having the center depth being Boeser, who, listen, scored over 20 goals so far this season, has been great. This is not a great Canucks lineup. And listen, we've seen Rick Tocchet go into last game against the Devils and so got some new guys in the lineup, some young guys that you want to see playing those types of game. This is a pressure game, and there was one player that truly stepped up to the mound when it came to pressure, and that was Jonathan Lekkeriamki. Jonathan Lekkeriamki last night not only scored a goal in regulation, but also sealed it in overtime. Have you seen the clip of him twirling his stick, going on, scoring a goal? This kid was electric last night, and it just shows what the Canucks have in the future and the development of their prospects joining this team. Listen, Lekkeriamki only has 5 points in 19 games, scoring a goal last night. We've seen him dominate in the AHL this year. 19 goals, 9 assists for 28 points in 32 games. We've seen him dominate in the World Juniors. We've seen him dominate with Abro HK in the Swedish Hockey League. Lekkeriamki is going to be a major part of this Canucks push. Like I said, he joined the top 6 with Blueger and Garland. I think he should have been here for quite some time. We've seen him play a lot of 4th line minutes when Tocchet was really changing things up. With 3 key players out of this lineup right now, we do know Rick Tocchet has to make some changes, and it does seem like Lekkeriamki is the guy that's going to have to step up On the second line, Garland's been great all year. Blueger has been solid as well. The top line was kind of rolling last night. We've seen Suter playing very well as at that point too. But we've seen Rick Tocchet speak on the Lekkeriamki goal. And listen, we're not going to stick on Lekkeriamki too much. But he said, I've got to try and find him more minutes for him. 2 beautiful shots from us. Obviously, the shootout was great, but the other one was a goal scorer's goal. To me, that was the impressive one. This is where we need players in this lineup that haven't shown that they're full potential yet in this lineup. I mean, Drew O'Connor's looked great as well. Sherwood probably needs to step up a tiny bit more, setting the hits record. So, I mean, listen, he's been doing everything he can. But this Canucks team is not the best. And listen, with the standings, it is going to get really close, and this is where the implications come through. The St. Louis Blues are on an absolute heater at the moment, 8-1-1 in their last 10 with a 6-game win streak. The Vancouver Canucks, 78 points, so 3 points behind the St. Louis Blues. 1 game in hand, so winning a game before St. Louis does put them just 1 point behind. But we do see the Calgary Flames just 1 point behind the Vancouver Canucks with 2 games in hand as well. Listen, the Minnesota Wild had a bit of a slide going 5-4-1 on a 1-game losing streak. Maybe teams take both wildcard spots. Maybe it's Vancouver and St. Louis. But things are going to get very interesting. And it's not only the Canucks games that are going to really push the interesting factor on the Canucks making this playoff push. I mean, listen, right now St. Louis does have a 54.3% chance at making the playoffs. This is all due to Money Puck. Calgary Flames have a 30.6% chance. The Canucks are stationed down there with a 17.3%. But there is a lot of indications on not only the Canucks games. As I said, listen, going into the game tonight versus the Montreal Canadiens, if the St. Louis Blues beat the Habs in regulation, they jump up to 62.6% of a chance to make the playoffs. If they lose to the Habs in regulation, that's a 13.7% drop down to 40%, which does boost the Canucks odds as well. As we would see, once again, the Vancouver Canucks having not only 1, but 2 games in hand, and the St. Louis Blues only having 81 points. This is a big game for St. Louis to lose. If they beat the Habs in overtime, they jump up 6%, so it's 2% difference from if they get 1 to 2 points. If they lose to the Habs in overtime, they get 1 point, 3.4% chance. This is a game that the Montreal Canadiens have to win. And listen, I hate the Montreal Canadiens, but this is a game that I'm going to be cheering for them. This is where it could say the deciding factor of St. Louis dropping down to 40%. This would boost the Canucks odds up if they come out and they win against, and they should win against, the New York Islanders, who pretty much just had their season spoiled on a no-goal the other night. If they win that game and St. Louis loses, we could see the Canucks make a big swing, take back a higher odds to make the playoffs. But Canucks fans, listen, I know, I'm not going to tell you go cheer for the Montreal Canadiens, because I'm not going to. And listen, one of my great friends, Josh, is on Habs Digest. I would never cheer for them, and he knows this. But this is a game that Vancouver needs to cheer for the Habs to win. If the Habs win, the Canucks win their next one. The Canucks get in a lot better position, and we want Calgary to go on a losing streak too. Listen, there's a lot to follow. There's a lot of teams you need to watch out for, those 3 in total. You want to check the standings of the St. Louis, Calgary, and of course the Vancouver Canucks, which you're doing already if you're watching this video. But these 3 teams are the teams you need to keep your eyes peeled. But what's your guys' thoughts on this? What's your thoughts on the current lineup? What's your thoughts on all these players out in Petey and Hoglander for at least 4 games? What's your thoughts on the Canucks' chances? I know a lot of you guys are downers on it, but I do think there's a strong case, and it's going to be awesome when the Canucks do make the playoffs and make a big push for the Stanley Cup. Go down and leave a comment below on everything we talked about in this video. While you're down there, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We'll be back with another episode, so keep your eye out for that. But I've been your host, Mark Pye, and listen, it's going to happen this year. Mark my words, no pun intended. The Canucks are going to make the playoffs. Take care.